And we are live with episode 5 of Raiders of the Past podcast. I am here today with my co-host, the lovely Johanna James. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's my birthday eve.
Yep.
I'm literally 3 hours to the minute to my birthday. So there we are.
Yep. And I'm about 2 days away from my
You're
birthday.
48 hours. No, that would be 51 hours away from
Yep.
your birthday. So it's a double birthday
Yep. Double birthday stream,
podcast.
everybody. So, yeah. What were you telling me about? We're both 1 day away from Harry Potter's birthday.
Well, yeah. So I'm really gutted that my birthday is not Harry Potter's birthday. Always was. So I'm the 30th, not the 31st. Because I even have like a scar on my forehead. And so I got convinced as a kid, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Hogwarts. I am Harry Potter. But yeah, I'm 1 day away. But then you're the other side. We both sandwich Harry Potter's birthday by 1 day.
Yep. I'm an August 1st child, and we're both I think we're both like the hottest Leo signs for anybody who's into astrology. What
Oh
is so what
yeah,
is
both Leo.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if you're too into astrology or not, but I hear that the early you are born in the month of Leo, like the more of a Leo you are.
Okay, you're like real, yeah. Because I wasn't growing up. I wasn't so much into it because I know it was like in the magazines or whatever, like the read your horoscope, but actually now that I've looked into it a bit more and got into like tarot cards and symbology and stuff, and I realized I was like, oh yeah, my God, I am a Leo. I 100% am a Leo. Like
Yeah.
extrovert, outspoken, bit bossy. I get like angry, not anger. I'm not like an angry person, but I get angry at like injustice really
Hmm.
quickly. I get really
Yeah, yeah,
fired up if someone like mistreats an animal or like if something's not fair, I'm like right in there.
yeah.
So
Have you ever read like your exact date and time description of what kind of Leo you are to see if it's accurate or not?
no, but I do know when I was born. Like I know that I think I looked into that and I think I have like a rising Cancer. I think
Oh, are you really? I'm the same thing. I'm a rising Cancer, whatever that
yeah,
means.
well, that means if anyone knows, just to remind everybody, we are doing this completely live, like warts and all, technical issues and all. We'd prefer
Yep.
um, to do this live, so please do jump in the comments and join in. And if you're the first time, like logging in and listening to Raiders, I'm Johanna.
And I'm Luke Caverns.
And we are just two friends who are obsessed with ancient history. And we thought, like, we're doing this anyway. We're researching in our own time and we're making content because this is what we're passionate about. Why don't we make a podcast and, chat this stuff through together? Every week, we're going to bring a research topic to the table and we're going to just hash it out and see what we feel, see what you guys feel too. So
Yep.
this week, I don't know, you're taking the wheel, Luke, so I don't know what we're actually talking about. I'm just here for the fun and the birthday bounce.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. First, I wanted everybody to acknowledge the rebrand right here. So we got
Yes,
so
please
so
do.
uh so in the last 4 episodes, I had gotten some comments of people saying, "Hey, you using that the Raiders, the actual Raiders logo, the same font and everything. We changed the color, but people were like, if the podcast gets too popular, who knows? You don't want to get in trouble with
Disney
Disney."
coming for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
They will.
Disney and Nintendo are known for doing, crazy things like that.
Yeah.
So Johanna and I went through, I don't even know how many different logos we went through in the last few weeks or so, just trying to figure out what the right brand was. I wanted to keep it still light and fun and feeling like Indiana Jones. So I found this logo. I think it's called Amazon River, something like that.
Perfect.
And
That's perfect.
yeah, yeah. So we changed it to that, and then originally we had the black background, but I thought it was a little dark, and then I switched
A
to
little
the
bit
yellow
moody.
black. Yeah, I switched to the yellow background with the red logo, and then people
Yeah.
said that was blinding them and hurting their eyes. So I came up with this. Does everybody please let me know in the comments below if everybody can tolerate staring at this background right here. It's just
Yeah.
it's a map of Egypt. You can see Alexandria above me,
Well,
and for the
that's so
people
cool.
yeah, for the people who are just listening, I'm sorry. if you watch, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, everybody, let us know in the comments what we think of this, because if everyone likes this, we're gonna stick with it.
Yeah.
And the party ribbons won't be here all the time. This is just for our birthdays.
This is just the annual birthday.
Yeah. Mark's Adventures thinks it's looking all right. So
Okay, great.
cool.
All good.
Yeah. So and then we also have so the new cover, I think, as everybody saw for a second here. Boom.
Oh, the cover
Into the
art.
past.
Boom. Hi
Yeah.
there.
So I think that looks pretty nice. And then when this comes out on Spotify this week, you'll get to see the square version of the cover art. So we're by episode 5, I don't even know. Are we a couple months in now? We're finally ironing things out.
Most people do all this prep work before they start a podcast, and they work out the structure, and they work out all. But we're just doing it as we go. We're just like, hey guys, let's all collaboratively make this podcast, because we are. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. Cool. So what are we talking about today? What piece of the past are we looking into?
So today I was thinking we would discuss. I just went on and Mexico, or an expedition in Oaxaca, Mexico, and so Oaxaca, Mexico is southern central Mexico. It's just east of the just west of the Maya world, just east of like Teotihuacan, the Aztec world. And I called it Mexico's flyover kingdom, because most people have never heard of the Oaxaca Valley or the Zapotec world. Yes, everybody hit that like button. And so most people have never heard of the Zapotec world. So I went there, and this was really kind of a last minute thing that I was going on for my professor, helping him lead a tour. And I had never really had a big interest in this area of the Americas. Just, the Americas are so vast. There's so much to get involved in. But I was actually blown away. And so today we're going to be looking at a set of tombs that I was able to explore while we were there up on top of this mountain, and the treasures that were actually found in these tombs, which the biggest one is called Tomb 7. And the treasure of Tomb 7, I think, is 100% evidence that ancient Mexicans had contact with the El Dorado cultures of South America. So all these gold rich and goldsmithing cultures in South America that caused the conquistadors to search through the Amazon for decades, and all these European explorers to search through the jungles of South America for decades.
Yeah.
We actually see those treasures in Mexico, and they're like one of a kind. But what's interesting is that archaeology thus far doesn't openly acknowledge the fact that this is evidence of these El Dorado, I just call them El Dorado cultures, and so do other people, but that these El Dorado cultures were either in Mexico or they were trading with Mexicans. And so that's what we're going to dive into today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just quickly, have you seen the animation movie Road to El Dorado?
Is that the Disney one?
It wasn't Disney, but it was like a competitor of Disney. I don't know if it was DreamWorks or someone, but
okay.
It kind of came out in the 90s. I think I've only seen it. But you just reminded me of it, and I was like, I should probably watch that again. And you should watch it and fact check it for us.
Yeah, I think that's the one. You know what? Let's test this out. I'm gonna look this up really fast. I think this would be fun to do with the audience. And
Road to El Dorado.
Just throwing this out there for the audience. My computer, sometimes when I am using my camera, and then I want to present something, sometimes the camera wants to stop working. So we're going to have to test this out.
We'll see. Someone says, is it Pixar? I don't think it was Pixar. The Road to El Dorado, it had like the brunette guy and the blonde guy, and they were trying to find the city of gold. That's all I remember about that movie.
All right, let's see.
Great movie. Not sure how much is based in fact, though. Yeah, I don't know either, but
let's see. Okay, so I got Road to El Dorado trailer pulled up. And let's go to present. And everyone, we're going to watch. We're going to at least take a look at it together.
Okay.
Share screen.
Just pray this works, guys. Fingers crossed.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Road to El Dorado trailer.
Interesting that there are like two major DreamWorks 2000. Someone says, thank you very much, SolarX.
Share.
Replacing bulky
All
thigh
right, looks like we're in business.
Okay. Oh, is this the trailer? I love how we
Yeah.
just sidestepped into the trailer for the road to great.
The legend.
Oh, I love 90s trailers. They
Lost
just
city of gold.
I feel like this guy voiced all the trailers in the 90s.
Yeah.
Brave enough to find it.
Wow. Oh my god, it's me and you.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my god, it's me and you.
That's funny.
And they
There I
call
am.
us Miguel and Tulio. 7! Your dice are loaded.
All right, so we could do a whole thing fact
We could do
checking
a whole but
this trailer. So just right off the bat, unfortunately, El Dorado did not look like the Maya world. So what's funny is, as I knew this about this movie. So you see this pyramid in the back. This is a Maya pyramid. So these steps right here with the masks lining the staircase. This is very Central American Maya. In South America didn't have pyramids quite like this. And all of these guys look very Maya. What's interesting is, like, I don't know how to describe it, but there you can see the difference between a Maya person and someone from South America. They look slightly different. But the Maya world, we know, is just, they built so much out of stone, and they had these big cities. And we know that South America did too. But as far as South American cities in the jungle, we haven't gone deep enough into the jungle to know whether or not they had these big cities built out of stone like this. They found some stuff on LiDAR. Oh, look at this.
The magnificent city of
look at that. I think we have a little clip in here.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
I've not thought about this movie in so long.
I know. It's so this is very much inspired by the Maya. Although this giant column building with a mask on it, thus far, I don't know of anything that looks like this. I think there's one tower in Guatemala or something that looks sort of similar to this. But definitely this style of building, it's all Maya. So if they had called it like Road to Xibalba, it would be.
You'd be correct.
Yeah. Like that right there is a Guatemalan pyramid behind him. So that's like Temple of the Jaguar in the city of Tikal. But super cool movie. We should definitely watch that and like do a review. Or at some point, what I think would be fun, although I don't know if we get copyrighted for it, we should do like a watch party of something. I don't know what, but
well, I think you can do it as long as you are doing commentary on it. It's like fair use. Let's look into that before we get sued by everyone. Because I'd love to do Road to El Dorado, but I'd also like to do Disney's Atlantis, the 2000. It was weird. They both came out around 2000.
Yep.
They were on it.
Yeah, Disney's Atlantis would be cool. People always tell me I look like that Milo guy.
Milo.
Yeah, when I put my glasses on, I look like Milo. I have some glasses for driving.
It's Let's a look. See. It's a vibe. It's the Milo glasses vibe is it's coming back in.
Crit Nature said you should do a fact-checking video of the movie Apocalypto sometime. I'm definitely going to do that. Have you seen Apocalypto?
I haven't, no, because when it came out, I think I was a bit young, or I was like not so into. It looks a bit violent. It's quite violent, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, when I was a little kid, my dad and I we walked into Apocalypto, and gosh, I couldn't have been. It was when Aragon came out. Do you remember that, the dragon movie?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So those came out at the same time, and my dad and I walked into Apocalypto, and in the first scene is when they use this trap to kill this boar in the jungle, and it's extremely realistic and bloody. And my dad like hits me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Let's go. We can't watch this. You're not old enough to watch this." And that's my very first memory of me having to step out of a movie that was too bloody and violent.
Not for us. Yeah, I think I'm old enough now, finally. It is my birthday in 3 hours, so I shall be old enough to watch Apocalypto, finally.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to do a review of that. So anyways, getting to my
back to El Dorado.
Let's remove this and stop sharing. Okay, all right. So these are a bit out of order, but I have let's see, I'm going to pull it up. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this properly. All right, so we're gonna do present, share screen, and then window.
I love that we're getting a lot of movie review requests right now. We've got Lost City of Z, amazing movie, quite long though, and 13th Warrior. There are so many movies that we could, like ancient history movies that we maybe do like a little side series on that.
Yeah, like a little movie club. We'll send people
Yeah.
home with some homework every so often. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe like every few months or so we'll all watch a movie together or something.
Yeah, great. Like a book club, but for ancient
Somebody
movie.
said, I don't know if Ray means we need to watch Raiders or not, but we could probably do that.
We could probably do the OG idea movie for sure.
Okay, so here's some photos of my recent trip.
Nice.
And so I may need to mute this, but I'm just gonna kind of go through some of these photos with you guys. And for some of these, it's my first time looking at them because I took like 5,000 photos.
Wow.
So we're gonna dive into this and talk about it. And then we'll eventually jump over to Google Earth. I'll show you guys the distance between these two kingdoms, the Zapotec kingdoms and the El Dorado kingdoms. And I just want to talk about it. So here's a video that I took of one of these tombs that I came across. And so one thing about ancient Mexico is you don't really see a lot of megalithic architecture unless you're at very, very old sites or they're under the ground. And all of these tombs are made out of megalithic stones. So you can see this. I wish the pause thing wasn't coming up, but you can see that megalithic lintel there at the top. And some of these go back 5 or 10 feet underground. So if we jump to the next one, so you can see up here, you can see these lintel blocks, these slanted blocks coming down. And this right here is actually a small tomb. These would go, so this tomb is probably 15 or 20 feet. This one right here is actually tomb 7. This one was just built for one person. But some of them, there are mausoleums that I've got some photos. I'm pretty sure in this folder where I go under the ground, and it's not just one of these. It's like this chamber that goes back, and there's offshoot chambers on the right and left, and all of the ceiling lintel blocks are made out of these giant megalithic stones.
So, has this been like cleaned so that the public have access? You didn't just find this like this.
No.
Okay, this is like a proper site. Okay.
So all of these have been cleaned. In the Zapotec world, I have some photos of the terrain. Actually, I'll show you guys the terrain because that's probably important. Let's see. Actually, you guys are gonna get to see a little bit of my. These are all my thumbnail photos. Ignore them.
That's a good camera. You got a real good camera there.
Yeah. So this is the Zapotec world. So it looks like it's a lot of jungle, but it's really not too much jungle. I say that as it looks like it's the jungle, but it's really not. So you can kind of see this is more realistic. These are sort of flat, arid hills. This is the city of Monte Alban. Well, that one looks a bit more like jungle. Here's a church that I was at. So this is all in Oaxaca. But up here on top of these hills, this is where Tomb 7 was discovered. So I say all that to say these aren't giant, ultra dense jungles, kind of like the jungles of Central and South America that you would wade through for tens of miles before you ever found anything. It's pretty easy just to fly over the Oaxaca world and find something. And so here's a photo of some of the, or here's a video of some of these tombs that they've gated off.
Whoa, yes. The original tomb that you had the lintel and then it had the diagonal ceiling. One that looks very much like, that walkway that they discovered, that like entrance way they discovered in the Great Pyramid with the vaulted ceiling. But do you know if the vaulted ceilings are aesthetic or whether they're functional to keep the weight of the roof from collapsing?
Well, I wonder that too, because you see some pretty similarly sized tombs that some of them just have flat ceilings with lintel blocks laid, horizontally over them, and
Yeah.
some of them you have them like this. And I don't know if we know what the meaning of it is. I mean, I can't imagine that having the I mean, other people could fact check me on this, but I couldn't imagine that having the diagonal triangular vaulted ceilings is any more structurally sound than getting a gigantic stone to lay flat on top. I feel like that would be much, much more complex to construct. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. But
Hmm.
see, with things like this, it's probably it could be both, trying to decipher what ancient people were doing and what they were thinking when they were building things is extremely difficult and basically impossible.
But
So
that's why we're here, Luke. That's
yeah,
why we're
exactly.
here to
And
try and guess.
yeah. So it's yeah, it's hard to know if we keep going through these. Cause see, that looks like you have these huge megalithic blocks, and some of these are well, they're pretty much all limestone or basalt, and so they have these huge blocks that they lay over. And on one of the next episodes, we'll have to do Meatla, which is a site I went to, and maybe I'll show a sneak peek of this. Meatla is mind blowing. Like there are this entire wall that's here. Sorry, I should use my uh, cursor instead of my actual finger. This entire wall right here at this site called Meatla, which is built by the same civilization, the entire wall is one single block. It's like bigger than wall blocks that you see that you see in some places in Egypt. So they have these tombs here that are unlike anything else in Mexico, with these huge blocks that are pretty abnormal for most cultures in the area, especially the Maya. Here's me going through this. Or here's me. I think there was a gate in front of this one that stopped me from going in, but here you can see these huge blocks again. And then this is the temple that was on top of it. But of course, the roof has collapsed in and some of the columns have fallen apart, but the roof probably would have been another few feet taller. And it could have had a stone vaulted ceiling that local farmers came in and quarried off within the last several hundred years. Or it could have had a thatch ceiling. Kind of like tropical thatch ceilings that you would see on like a cabana. Sometimes they do those on top of their stone buildings. And so I think this is the one of me jumping down inside. This is a different tomb than the one I was just showing. Let's see, we'll jump down one more time.
Who was in the tombs, do you know? Was it like
Well, we don't really know that either. Now, look at the size of these blocks up here at the top.
they did find people in the tombs, or they like
Oh yeah,
Egyptian?
yeah. Well,
Okay,
and
yeah.
well, and they have like a complicated context because at in so this is Tomb 7 right here, Temple 7, and then Tomb 7 underneath it. They found a principal body, I guess, or a mummy, because they're wrapped in a certain way. They found a principal body, but there were also other people from a later culture buried in here. So whoever this was some kind of exalted ruler, and perhaps there were people that wanted their bodies to be buried in with him. So there were other bodies. I think they've estimated like around 40 other people's remains buried in here.
Ew. I'd
Yeah,
be
and,
so
and
pissed if I had a tomb built for me and then there's like 40 people. I'm like, get out.
yeah, and so we're gonna see his skull here in a minute and all of his
Okay.
treasure. But what's interesting, and you got to think, okay, so in Egypt, it's always debated over whether or not the pyramids were tombs. But you can't deny that there were so many. Nobody can deny that there were so many other tombs in Egypt, and they were all grave robbed by Egyptians. Egyptians would come. So if we look at Hatshepsut or Ramses or so many of these other pharaohs, how many different times their bodies were moved around. And I know you've seen sites like this in Egypt where, a pharaoh had to be buried in like 3 different places because, his tomb kept getting robbed. So it's interesting. You look in the old world and see the same people from the same culture basically conspiring together and robbing their pharaohs of all of their gold. But in the Mesoamerican world, there were at least 40 people that wanted to be buried inside this tomb, and nobody, as far as we know, and because of the just sheer amount of treasure that was found in this tomb alongside these other bodies, people were burying themselves in the tomb and not stealing anything at all. How bizarre and like backwards thinking is that? So when you study the Americas, I've said this like so many times before on, in various interviews, podcasts, videos, that when we're studying the Americas, we're kind of studying people who were living on Mars. Like the way that they think, sometimes even today, the way that they think is so foreign to us. A good example of this. Well, let me see. I'm going to put this in the background for a second. So a good example of this, of how people in the Americas are so different, or ancient Americans and their culture and their way of thinking is so different than Western thought, is there was a guy on a tour in Peru within the last year who, during all of these, during all of their excursions. So, people go on these archaeological tours and you go out for a day, you arrive at a site, you're going to be there for half of the day. And he was this older middle-aged guy, and he kept disappearing during the middle of the tours. And the tour guide was like, where's this guy going off to? But he's got 15 other people he's got to watch after. He can't pay attention to this one guy. And so like on the 6th day of the 8 days that they're on this tour, the guy goes missing for like 4 or 5 hours. And so the tour guide goes looking for him, and he goes walking up the side of this cliff. This is in Peru. And he goes walking up the side of this cliff, and he sees the backpack and this guy's hat sitting on the edge of this cliff. And he walks over to it, and he can hear people talking at the bottom of the cliff, and he looks over the cliff, and he sees the guy on the tour that had been walking off laying down at the bottom of the cliff, like not moving, with a couple of Peruvians around him. So the tour guide runs back down, and he grabs the guy's backpack and hat, and he runs back down to the bottom of the archaeological site over to where the person was, surrounded by these Peruvians. And he had, long story short, he had apparently tripped, fallen, hit his head on a rock. Presumably the rock killed him, and he rolled over and fell off of the cliff and died. And these Peruvians were around him trying to help him, resuscitate him, but he didn't come back to life. And so the Peruvians emptied his pockets to try to find his identification. And when they emptied his pockets, they found ceramics in his pockets. And he was going around stealing bits of pottery and stone from these archaeological sites. And then they wanted to open up the guy's backpack. So they opened up his backpack. They found more ceramics in it. And then they opened up his, they went back to the bus and they opened up his suitcase, and they found more ceramics in that. So at all these archaeological sites, he had been stealing these artifacts. And so, the
never steal ancient artifacts. That's bad juju. That is called karma.
Yeah, it is, right? And so the Peruvian said that. The Peruvian said, well, he knew he shouldn't have been doing that. And, so the tour guide thinks, like, from our modern thought, he thinks that, okay, the rest of the group might be in trouble. I might be in trouble. They're probably pissed off that this guy has been stealing things from all these different places. Well, what the Peruvians did was they helped pack up the guy's like body and all of this stuff and everything. They collected all of the potsherds. They put them in a box, and they wrote a letter to his family, and they mailed all the potsherds back to his family. And they were like, this is our gift to you. This is what your husband, this is what your family member came to Peru and died for. So you guys deserve to be able to have these. And I mean, that's just so, think about people like that. No Westerner, all Westerners would be like, yeah, that's what you deserve. Give us all of our stuff back, and, too bad for you. But, these people are completely different than we are. And so when we're studying the ancient Americas, you almost have to remove your Western mind to be able to understand it. So yeah, thought that was interesting. So
That was a cool story.
continuing. So these people, rather than the Egyptians robbing their own kings and pharaohs' tombs, these guys wanted to be buried in the tomb with the king. So I thought that is pretty interesting.
Maybe he was really hot. Do you know what I mean? Like that hot. That everyone was like, for years afterwards, we're like, yeah.
Everybody was still banging on about him.
Yeah, everyone was like, do you know what? Even if he's dead, I'll still just share a tomb. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one. So you can see, like, pretty for the Mesoamerican world. This is pretty excellent stone masonry.
It's
But
so neat and tidy.
yeah. Well, and this isn't so in Mexican archaeology, these little in between like the cracks here, what Mexican archaeologists do is they put these little pebbles in there to show you what's been recreated, and none of this has been recreated. It's all still sitting here. So it's very excellent stone masonry. You have these huge lintels up at the top. But again, when we get to Mitla on my next episode, it's the stone masonry there is on par with Egypt. It's actually crazy. So the handsome guy you were talking about that was buried in the tomb, you're
Whoa.
looking at him right now. So this is the man from Tomb 7.
I mean, not like this, but that chin, that's a pretty good chin. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if he had some muscles and some skin on that, he potentially could be a nice wide-jawed man. I see it.
Yeah. You know what was amazing is this head was enormous, actually. Like I have a big head.
He's
I have
been mewing. Someone
Yeah.
said in the comment, he's been
Oh,
mewing. He's
somebody said he's
working
been
that
mewing?
jaw. Yeah.
Yeah. He probably has. That's so funny.
He's got
So
all his teeth. All his teeth is a plus.
Yep, he has all of his teeth. When I was looking at him, like I have a gigantic head. I have like an extra large head, no exaggeration. This guy's head was bigger than mine, and these are
Wow.
supposed to be small people. You know, like Pakal, who was a Maya king. We have the remains of his entire body, and he was like 5'6", and that was very tall for a Maya person. Average height is 5'3". The man from Tomb 7 who we're looking at, we
Wait,
don't
the average height was 5'3"?
for a man. Yep.
I would be like a giantess to them. I'm 5'9".
They would think that you were a goddess, I'm sure.
And when I'm in heels, I'm 6 foot. Like I would be, hello, little hobbits. You know, that's wow.
Yeah. Well, you can see
Cool.
why when the Europeans first showed up, they were
Yeah.
like, "Wait, are these gods?"
Yeah, because they're just massive.
Yeah, massive. And try to imagine you're an ancient American and Hernan Cortez just showed up on the shores of the Yucatan. It's the first time you've ever seen a European, except he's sitting on a horse. And you can't, he's sitting on a horse. He's got this big body of armor with this big, long, shiny sword thing, but you don't even know what a sword is. And the grip on the sword wraps around like his glove. So it looks like it's connected to his arm. And he's sitting on a horse. So it would look like what is the half horse, half person? Is that a minotaur? Am I crazy?
A centaur.
Yeah, centaur. That's what it would have looked. That's what they would have looked like. They thought that they were just one being at first. And he's wearing like the shiny iron armor. It just it would have been mind blowing to see these giant people riding these horses with this shiny armor and everything. But it didn't take too long before they realized that that these people that they thought were gods were actually just normal people that were here to, basically conquer their land, just like everybody else had been conquering each other since the beginning of time. But this is the guy from Tomb 7. So again, the thing about the Mesoamerican world is we have very, very little context for who this man would have been. I'll let this video play. We have very little context for who this man would have been. We have no context for who he would have been. We know that he was somebody, that he was nobility of some kind, that he must have been an important person to be buried in that tomb. And then the little jade mosaic mask that's on him, some people think that he was so important that later on they added that mask straight onto his skull. So, obviously his eyes would have been removed, and they put those little it's like the little stone eyes in there, and then they think that that jade mask could have been applied straight onto his skull. Some people think that the jade mask was like applied onto his skin, but his skin deteriorated away over time. The only thing left is the bone and the rock, or the bone.
That's an option. It could have been like on his skin, and then as his skin like just turns into dust, it just settles on. But then it does look pretty glued onto unless they've glued it back onto the skull. Either way, I mean, it's a look. Like I think I could, pull off something like that, something
Yeah,
similar.
yeah. Well, it's certainly cool, and what makes me think is, like, where in the world does the inception of the idea to do something like this come from, you
Yeah,
know?
what do they mimic? Like somebody saw that. I'm a strong believer that everything that we create comes from visual. Like stories that we make up are inspired by something we've seen or heard. Art is something that we've like taken and interpreted. Somebody somewhere would have like seen something that looked like this blue glittery skin and were like, let's make
I
that.
don't know, because it happens all over the entire Mesoamerican world, and, yeah,
Yes.
you know what else is weird? Is how many other places around the world do you see people buried in masks? Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. The Egyptians are buried in masks.
Tutankhamun had a big, pretty famous one.
Yep. The Egyptians are buried in masks. The Greeks are buried in masks. There's the mask of Agamemnon, which that one is made out of like a solid or like a sheet of gold. Where does that come from? Like who has the idea to put something shiny and valuable over their face before they're buried? It's very interesting. So
Mm.
here's the guy from Tomb 7. And then this is another little mask. This is a tiny little mask. This guy's probably just a few inches. And this, what we're looking at, is part of the evidence that I believe that these guys were connected to the kings of El Dorado. And there's a lot to unpack here, but just get a good look at these. Everybody watching, and I'm sorry for the people listening. These are little small gold artifacts that are made out of small plates and sheets of gold that are woven together, and they're almost like gold strings. It's really amazing goldsmithing work, and
Oh
some
yeah,
of
like
it.
the hair is like little loops of gold I can
Yeah,
see.
yeah, it's little loops of gold, and another thing is look at the everybody keep an eye on the patterns that you see on all of these artifacts. So you can see the stepped fret pattern that's going over his face. You're going to
Mhm.
see that all across Central, South, and North America. And there's something about the ancient world, and I don't know if this comes from deep time or whether so many of these cultures really were connected across the seas, but that little step fret pattern that goes from cheek to cheek, you can see that. Has anyone ever seen have you ever seen the massive temples that are built in the Middle East in these huge boulders sitting in the middle of the desert? Have you seen this before?
Oh yeah, like in Saudi Arabia, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's that exact same pattern that's on his face. And that looks like it's a coincidence. It can't be, because that same pattern is all over the Americas. I mean, there are hundreds, if not well over 1,000 examples of this.
yeah.
And it's not only that, it's the spiral pattern that we're going to see too. That is found in the New World and the Old World.
I'm trying
So
to find it. I'm trying to find a picture of. Oh my God, you're totally right. In Saudi Arabia, and how did I Saudi Arabia? I got that
yeah,
right.
let me
10 points to Gryffindor.
I'll pull that up too for
Yeah,
the people
pull
watching.
it up. There's I just put in Middle East boulder carvings, but yeah, it's Saudi Arabia carved into a single rock, and it's the exact step thing that's on his face. Like they've made that into. That's weird.
Let's see.
So Middle East
There we
boulder
go.
carvings.
Yep, that's it right there.
Bang, there it is, right? And so anyone like listening at home, the mask has it's like it looks like stairs from a side point of view, and
Yeah.
it's going from his nose to the side of his sort of temple.
And you can see this same step fret thing is, I would have to know the exact wording for it, but you can see the same step fret thing in Peru as well. It's
Mm.
it's absolutely everywhere, and it comes either from deep. Oh, I think it definitely comes from deep time. It's one of the most ancient symbols that humanity ever created, and we don't really have the understanding for it. Like people think
Yeah.
it could be walking into the underworld and then walking out of it. It's like the cycle of life. That's the same thing that people think that this spiral thing means, but there's no definitive answer, which is amazing because it's one of the most common symbols ever.
I feel like so in my mind immediately jumped to a theory. So these like weird boulders out in Saudi Arabia, yeah, like they're intricately carved and they don't go anywhere. They're just like it's like one side of a door, right?
Mhm.
And it's literally you're like it's a portal, But it is and it isn't, not like a physical portal, but it was like a spiritual, symbolic. Well, I'm not sure if it's physical, could be dimension hopping and all that stuff. But if we're not going to go that direction, we can say it's like a spiritual portal, or maybe it was like, I'm kind of seeing it like steps going up. Like, what if you go there to like just spiritually, open your mind? It's like a physical image of your mind opening, and it was weird on his face. It's going from his nose to his temple, and it's like you're opening your brain to the universe or the cosmos, or I don't know. Very cool. Sacred geometric patterns that our physical world is built upon. Thank you, Chuck, from the comments.
So check this out, everybody. So I just sent this to my own email. So here's this thing in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
This is it also in Peru as well.
Carved in.
Yep.
So
Carved
freaky.
in.
That's the other side of the world.
How similar though? Carved into a giant boulder.
Just into a boulder.
Not exactly the same. It's also inverted. It's slightly, the pattern is inverted. But
on the other side of the world, it's inverted.
How strange is that? Here's the same thing, but it's, in a square form. I want to say this is Bolivia. This is Tiwanaku Pumapunku.
Yeah, that looks like where the H blocks are in Pumapunku.
Yep. So carved into what looks like to me andesite. And then I might have one more example here. So you can see this step thread thing going up and down.
Yep.
And that symbol is quite literally all over the world. And there's no total explanation for it. I saw somebody saying here, let's see. Somebody said, oh yeah. Callie said that's a stretch. Here's the thing.
What's a stretch? The steps?
I'm not sure. Well, here's the thing. It's right in front of our face. It's something. They're extremely similar. I saw a very orthodox archaeologist talking about this recently as well, with the spiral patterns that people are seeing all over the world. And he even thought that some of these patterns that you see on both sides of the planet, and there's thousands of examples of the same pattern over and over again, and it's basically to a point where it's undeniable. He thinks that all of these may be prehistoric, pre-ice age symbols that come from deep, deep time, like some of the very first symbols that human beings ever came up with. And that the spiral may mean something that's like that may be something that's like the four corners, the four cardinal directions somehow, and how they're intertwining with each other in life and death. Who really knows? And then that the steps may mean something of stepping down into death and coming back into life, and the different
ascending, descending. I mean, that's a very popular topic everywhere.
So, things like this, we're not talking about something that the most conservative, like least speculative archaeologists don't acknowledge either. These are things that really, really do exist. And there's such a plethora of evidence out there, or there's such a plethora of examples out there, that at least, eventually you have to start questioning, like, what is the purpose of this? And why are they preserved for over 10,000 years? I mean, these exact same symbols go back to Ukraine, like 15,000 years ago or 12,000 years ago. And they're carved on little pieces of bones and wood. So think about the distance from Ukraine to South America, and you're seeing the same symbolism all over the world.
Ukraine has so much ancient stuff. It's obviously not as popular, and right now there's a war going on, which it's like, obviously the war is horrific, but also just for the timeline of humans and preserving the ancient things, there's a lot of stuff being blown up right now in a very ancient part of the world that's not like fully explored. A lot of the books on ancient Ukraine they're not translated into English and accessible for like the rest of the world. There's some like real ancient cave art. There's like there's stuff like there's Neanderthal stuff. It's super, super old. Humans were in and around that place for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I bet there's underground shit. There's underground stuff over there. If there's underground stuff in Scotland and Turkey and whatever, Ukraine, I bet it's having like there's so much stuff under there.
Hey, you know something that's interesting about that part of the world is there is a Greek dagger embedded into the stone. Well, the imprint of it is embedded into the stone at Stonehenge. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but there was a kingdom called Mycenae in Greek or in ancient Greece. Just over 3,000 years ago, and there's a little imprint of a dagger on there, and it just shows that all the way in Greece over 3,000 years ago they were traveling to England, and
You're
that
right. I did
and
not
that
know that.
and that the connections even back during the Bronze Age and prehistoric times, you know, people have been traveling long distances for an extremely long time, and that leads into kind of what we're talking about today, where I think that these El Dorado cultures were traveling up the coast of South America and bringing goldsmith trading to this Zapotec culture here in Mexico. And we will go through here in a minute, South American gold artifacts that are indistinguishable from these gold artifacts that were found in Tomb 7. And so we kind of see some of these gold artifacts found in other places. I guess I should say this as well. But the vast majority of them just come from Tomb 7, which is really strange. And so what I wonder is if this was a very powerful king that had a vast trade network, and somehow he was so powerful, he was able to help the city of Monte Albán flourish well enough that his trade connections from South America were so strong that he was able to get these kind of artifacts. Because it's kind of a one-off thing. He's one of the only people... He's one of the only people in all of Mesoamerica that we know had these treasures in his tomb. None of the other tombs around him had these in them as well. So it's an anomaly in Mesoamerica. So let's see, continue through these. So just get a good image of what these artifacts look like, and then we're going to look up El Dorado culture artifacts, and they're going to be indistinguishable. So you can see these little loops of gold. And I mean, and these guys are this big, and there were dozens and dozens of them found in this one tomb.
Just like a couple of inches. Yeah.
And to make it even more significant, these gold artifacts in Mesoamerica were as rare as iron was in ancient Egypt. So in ancient Egypt, they had bronze, but before they had iron mines, they had to get iron from daggers. So have you ever heard of King Tut, his iron dagger or his meteorite dagger that he had?
Oh, yes, it's not from this world. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so iron was very rare and very valuable in ancient Egypt. This was exactly the same in Mesoamerica. You had gold, but it was way, way, way under the ground, and they weren't mining that far yet. So this is a one-of-a-kind material that can't be found anywhere else. And this tomb was opened several dozen times, and people were burying themselves in there with the treasure and not stealing it. It's very bizarre. And I say all to say, it's like as bizarre as there being a meteorite dagger in King Tut's tomb, and over the course of thousands of years, nobody steals it, but everyone knows it's there.
Well, I've seen parts of the Caribbean, and I know what happens when you take a piece of like Aztec gold, you turn into a zombie. So not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, they probably definitely had superstitions about this. They didn't want to steal it. They knew it was sacred. And so perhaps rather than stealing it, perhaps maybe they thought if they were buried with it, they would be blessed in the same way, if that makes sense, in the next life. So here we go, continuing through these. Oh yeah, here's
so pretty gold. I'm a gold jewelry girl myself, so I appreciate this. I would have been great in El Dorado. Just weighed down with all my gold.
Yeah. There's so much here. And all these little like you can see this these little this little spiral here and these little bunny ear looking things. We're gonna see these in South America, which makes it and here's these just gold sheets that they have. And so these may be unused gold sheets that could be turned into something else, or maybe they have some kind of purpose that we can't understand yet. Oh my God.
It's gold toilet paper, obviously.
There you go. What other way to show your wealth than having gold toilet paper?
Gold toilet paper. Isn't it weird how humans, we just like, inherently in modern and ancient times obsessed with like gold, shiny stuff. We love it.
Mhm.
We love gold jewelry, gold decoration, gold teeth. Like obviously we've put worth into it because in and of itself, gold isn't worth anything unless we attach worth to it. Like
Mhm.
it's just a rock, a mineral, whatever. It's a metal.
Mhm.
And that's what it is. It's not a rock or a mineral.
Well,
It's a
and
metal.
I wonder how long it takes these cultures to realize how many times they come in contact with it before they realize that, like, yes, it's true, you know, anything that has value, like the dollar, you know, it only has value because we say it has value.
Yeah.
But I wonder how long it takes them to realize that like gold is malleable and you can't really destroy it and you can melt it and turn it into something new, you know, and how long it takes for them to realize that and then give it value. I mean, we're talking about like when you see something like this, and I say that this is around at least 2000 to 2500 years old, maybe a little older than that. You know, sometimes
Whoa.
we think like, well, you know, Egypt is at least 4000 years old. It doesn't sound that old, but you got to think the amount of time it took for a culture to even acquire the knowledge and ability to be able to do this. I mean, they're sitting on at least 10,000 years of slowly growing your civilization and people tinkering with things throughout time. I mean, think about all the food we eat. How many people, you know, had the most horrific deaths from eating poisonous plants just for us to learn, you know, what we're able to eat and not able to eat. So here's a couple more. Here's some
It's
more of
so
these myths
beautiful.
that
Like
were found.
some of this stuff you could honestly sell today. It's so
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Well, and so much of the jewelry, so much of the jewelry in Latin America is inspired by these tombs.
Yeah, I can see. It's beautiful. I love turquoise too. Gold and turquoise. It's a win.
Yep. So think about all of this in that one tomb and no one stole anything. As far as we know. I mean, there's just such an insane amount that we assume nobody stole anything. And so
Yeah.
here's a crystal goblet that was found in it as well, which is that might have a better I don't think that that's
It
gonna
looks like an egg cup, but is it
Yeah.
tiny?
So it's about this big, and it's a crystal goblet that's like perfectly, you know, hollowed out, and we don't even know right now where exactly this crystal came from and how they were able to do this.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's really really cool. And so they have these. I think that these are I think these are alabaster cups. So it's the same as the cups. You know, you see
Yeah.
thousands of these in Egypt. And here's another alabaster cup.
So pretty.
Yeah. There's those tripod vessels. There's the crystal goblet.
Looks like a
So
cauldron.
yeah, so cool.
Very cauldron-like.
And so
Whoa.
this is what's on our little thumbnail for this video. There's the crystal goblet again. Here's that
I want
face.
one. Someone says a shot glass. Maybe it was. Shots. This guy was the biggest party planner.
Yeah, well, they had their crazy drinks there. When we were there, we had authentic native hot chocolate, and so they would. So people don't realize this: the Mesoamericans invented chocolate. They're the reason that the world had chocolate, and
Yeah.
they've had chocolate for over 2,000 years now. But their chocolate was a spicy drink, and it was
Yeah, it
something.
wasn't like sweet, right? It was like more of
Nope.
a
The only sweetener that Mesoamericans had that we know of was honey from beehives, and they may have put that in their chocolate. There may have been a variant, but all we know of right now is that they had like a spicy chocolate drink. And so, who knows? I actually don't know that. Just like the pre-dynastic vases, that many of them haven't been tested for, haven't had chemical analysis done on them. I don't know the chemical analysis have been done on these guys because I think these guys have been sitting in this museum for 80 plus years. These were discovered 90 years ago, I think. And so I think they've
They
been
should do
sitting.
that.
Yeah, how cool would that be to know exactly what they were drinking out of here?
Because it's only in recent years that they're doing proper chemical analysis, like around and inside the pyramids of Giza, and it's
Mhm,
just so interesting the compounds that are being found inside. Like, and each pyramid has different chemical compounds. It's not like
mhm.
this, oh yes, they all have this and that. Like they're coming out with different elements, and so yeah, I'm like, right, let's swab test everything.
Yep.
Especially things like goblets, because not just what were they drinking and whatnot, but like all kinds of alchemical magic.
What I think is amazing is I don't know if like people would roll their eyes at this, but isn't it amazing that just the simplest thing of these cups. I mean, if I told you that that was from Egypt, you would just send you a photo. You would go, "Yeah, I've seen tons of cups that look like that in Egypt." Isn't it amazing that? And maybe I'm wrong, but very similar. But isn't it amazing that people on different sides of the world, can see that alabaster is a great stone, or a great material to make a very delicate, lightweight, like piece of faience for them to be able to drink something out of. Just, how bizarre is that people that are, supposedly disconnected on two different sides of the world can invent many of exactly the same things and deem a lot of the same materials to be valuable, and then do a lot of the same things with the same materials. Something about that human aspect, the mystery of that human genius that we're all like tapped into. I find that very, very fascinating, because the more I travel around Mesoamerica, the more I see things that are like, oh, I've seen things like this in the old world too. Isn't that crazy that people can do these things?
Yeah, either we are all really, our creativity is not that wide as humans, and we all end up just doing the exact same thing no matter what, or previous humans were just way more connected than we ever thought they were, and they were like, floating around the planet, and people were, seeing and sharing ideas. So it's one of the other ones.
Here's that guy again. This guy is probably about this big. So once we get
like an inch or two.
Yeah, this guy right here, he's probably about this big. So,
about 4 inches.
4 inches tall. Yeah,
So
and just
intricate.
look at the detail of that.
Yeah, super intricate. Like the headdress, the face, the kind of shoulders. He's even wearing miniature jewelry. There's jewelry inside the jewelry.
Yep. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Jewelry.
And so we think that this right here, this little mountain-looking house thing, is representative of where he came from. They try to decipher this, because we can see this in later Mixtec codices, where so the Mixtec codices, they're like these ancient Mesoamerican comic books, but you can actually read them. And in those codices, when they describe where people are from, they look like these little compound icons that this guy has on. But the Mixtecs existed another, more than 1,000 years after this right here. So we're looking at symbols. I saw a comment earlier that was like, what would these stairways or these spirals mean? How do we know that they're symbols and not just decoration? It's pretty much the case in the ancient world that so many of these things had an actual purpose to them, that they're not just random. They're not just random decoration. And random decoration also isn't continuous for thousands of years. When it has some kind of deep purpose to society, it will last a long time. Otherwise, you would see different decorations kind of come and go, because people can just make whatever they want. But there's a reason that people stick to the same thing for thousands of years. And it's because they have some kind of meaning that, today in the modern world, we're disconnected from. And the reason we're disconnected from it is because of events like in the late 1500s, Diego de Landa gathers all of the Maya codices in their writing, and he burns it all. And then Pizarro in the Inca world killed off, all of the Inca, and disease killed off all the people in the ancient Americas. And then in the old world, we see these spiral symbols and these step fret symbols. They actually end after. So the Library of Alexandria was destroyed about 5 different times. And after that, we do not see the Greco-Roman, Egyptian, Hellenistic world using these symbols anymore. It's just a strange thing that this destruction of knowledge ended whatever the significance of these symbols were. The only time you see this the only time you see that spiraled pattern continue after the burning of the Library of Alexandria, the first and the second one, is on the mausoleum of Augustus, his sarcophagus. But Augustus was present for the second burning of Alexandria's library, and so it's very interesting. So continuing, here's another video of him. Just insanely detailed. I was filming this on like a 300 millimeter camera from like 50 feet away to try to get that.
Wow. No, you
the
get good.
blur background.
It's beautiful. The intricacies. I always think that, like, oh, if there is a alternative dimension, if you believe in like quantum dimension theory, so that like the universe is infinite and goes all different ways, but basically every decision branches off and creates an alternate universe, an alternate multiverse. And I was like, what if there's an alternate multiverse where like the Library of Alexandria never burnt down and that knowledge was transferred? And what would our reality now be if we had everything that was lost?
Well, I mean, there are people. I think it's
That's
a common
the movie
saying.
I want to watch.
Yeah, I think it's a common saying that people say that the burning of Alexandria's library set the world back by several hundred or 1,000 years. You know, I don't know how true that is, but I think that I bet you there are religious texts from I know that Judeo-Christian texts were in that library that had to be destroyed. It's one of the first places that the Christian Bible was assembled. It's one of the places where Christianity really flourished in the ancient world.
That means there would be Bible books that were never you know, that didn't make the cut, that because there's a whole bunch of Bible books that didn't make the cut, but we found them.
Yep.
If that was a place where they actually like curated and did the final cut of the Bible, there would be like a whole bunch of Bible rejects, like the alternative Bible.
Yeah. I mean, people think that the
Crazy.
initial sort of vetting of the books of the Bible was later on. I think closer to the Middle Ages, although I'm not an early Christian expert. And that's where they decided to take like the book of Timothy out. One of the books that had to do with, or maybe it's Thomas, of Jesus' childhood.
Oh,
and,
yeah, they took out anything because there's a whole bunch of stories of Jesus when he's a kid, like basically killing another kid and then bringing him back to life. And like, there's a whole stuff that they were like, yeah, we can't, this doesn't like look so great. So we're just going to jump straight from baby Jesus to one time when he's 13 and running away from his parents. And then we'll go straight to 33 and we'll just like, they're missing so many chunks of life.
And so there were probably books like that existed in the library. It's weird. I've seen academics say that oh, you know, the burning of Alexandria's library wasn't that big of a deal.
It was a massive deal.
But
even if it's one book, that's a massive deal.
Well, but actually Mark Antony, who was Cleopatra's second lover, and he was the cousin of Julius Caesar, which was Cleopatra's first lover. After the first burning of Alexandria's library, you know, maybe a decade or so later, this is after Julius Caesar has already passed, and he begins his relationship with Cleopatra. He actually uses his wealth to acquire another 200,000 books for the library as a gift to her to make up for the siege of Alexandria that had happened some decade earlier. And so, you know, he wouldn't have done that if the library wasn't significantly damaged. So yes, that and the destruction of the New World are basically some of the greatest, you know, literary crimes against humanity as far as our knowledge of the world.
Like, yeah, if we didn't, and also if the Spanish hadn't burnt everything. Oh,
yep. Yeah, I mean, we lost everything. Just a quick example of how much we lost. I'll pull up a.
Just humans, man. Just so disappointing. Like, come on, it's humans.
So if we look at,
Back to the photo show.
Here's a great example. All right, so we're looking at this.
We're looking at trees.
Underneath these trees is an entire city that's right next to the road. You'd never be able to know that. those trees are not rising because there's a hill underneath them. They're rising because they're growing on top of pyramids. And this is in Quintana Roo, Mexico.
You would
And,
never ever see that from the. You'd never see that.
and so this is how important the literary context of the ancient world is to understanding the ancient world. So when Spanish explorers are coming through Mexico and Latin America for the first time, or the ancient Americas for the first time, they are seeing a lot of cities that look like this. There are some cities that the forest is cleared back and people are still living in them, but the very ancient cities like this one look like this. And this city's probably been abandoned for almost about 2,000 years now. And they looked like this. So you have these archaeologists, even in modern times, that clear back some of the trees that they need to understand this, or to be able to see clearly and work clearly at the site that they're at. But they're looking around and they're seeing the orientation of the temples and the directions that the temples are pointed at, and they're trying to figure out what the heck. Like, I don't understand why this structure and that structure are pointed at each other, and why all these are pointed northeast. Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And so at all of the cities, they're clearing off the trees that are growing from outside of the temple, but they just don't really have a great sense of what they're looking at. And when the Dresden Codex is deciphered and we start learning more about Mesoamerican astronomy, that one codex that's several dozen pages long, that's about this thick, it's about this big, about this thick, and it's a codex. So, like, have you ever seen the sticky notes that you pull and it's like an accordion?
Oh, yeah.
That's what Mesoamerican books look like. Those are known as codexes or codices. And so when they decipher the codex, they realize, oh, the whole Mesoamerican world is based on the stars. We have to clear off the canopy to be able to understand the city that we're in. And just like that, the entire context of the city that we're looking at is given to us because of the discovery and the decipherment of one codex. Without that one codex, if that had been burned by Diego de Landa, we would have perhaps never known that to fully understand these Maya cities, you have to completely clear off the trees and then study where the stars land in the night sky and what astronomical bodies those temples are pointing at. And without that codex, we would never know. And it's every single Maya city throughout the entire Maya world. And not only that, when you know that about the Maya cities, every single other ancient American city shares very similar alignments and a lot of the same practices. And so that one codex gave us that clue for the rest of the ancient Americas. So imagine the other thousands of codexes that were burned, the genius that was in them that is lost to the world.
Oh, Diego, what a dick.
Yep. What a dick.
What a dick that Diego was.
Okay. So bringing this to a close now, finally.
Okay, coming in.
We've seen these gold artifacts. Now, what's really weird is that archaeologists don't just openly say, and I say this as an anthropologist with lots of archaeology friends, they don't just openly say, yeah, it's obvious that these guys were bringing in South American artifacts. And because it seems like it's really far away, and we don't see these artifacts in the Maya world. Again, this is the Zapotec and in the later Mixtec world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pull up Google real fast, and we're going to take a dive into this world and what this means if these cultures knew each other. All right.
Oh, we are going right from the world. This is an image of the world.
Yeah, I wish I could go like ultra full screen on this, but I guess we're stuck with this.
That's
all right. So Oaxaca is right in here. So we're going to look up the city of Monte Alban. Sorry.
I like this comment that someone's written. Screwdriver Tuning says, the land of the stars written on the ground. I was like, that's a really good description.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm stealing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
who wrote that?
Screwdriver Tuning wrote the land of the stars written on the ground. Beautiful.
If I could give you a star or
10 points to Gryffindor, Screwdriver.
Okay. Land of the stars. If you hear that in one of my videos, just know that I stole it from you. That's a great saying. I love that. Thank you so much, Screwdriver. That's a great That really is a great comment. Okay, so we're at the city of Monte Alban.
Yep.
Tumba 7. Here we go. This is
Okay.
where it was.
So that's where all the gold was, in the tomb over there. Got it.
And we may even have a
Wow, you
there
can-
we
you
go.
did- this
Tomb
is amazing.
7. Tomb 7's down there.
Armchair archaeology in action.
Yep. So Tomb 7 is down there, and it's on the outskirts of the greater city of Monte Alban. There's another tomb there, and then I think there might be a tomb right below my feet here. Yeah. The image is kind of messed up, but so this is Tomb 7, and it's the only tomb in Monte Alban that had these kind of gold artifacts. So this is the greater city of Monte Alban. It's actually gigantic. I'll sit up here on the top of this temple and show you guys how big this site is. So just absolutely ginormous. I mean, you're talking about construction on a level that most cultures. I mean, this is the top of a mountain. Look at it. Look at these other mountains. They just shaved off the top of it to make this city. They just shaved off the top and made it flat to build this gigantic city. And look how big these columns are compared to these people. These columns would have been about 12 feet tall, and they've got I didn't even see this when I was there because this is like over my head. That's so interesting. Do they have a solid block in the center of them?
There's like a core to the
No
there's
way.
they're built around some sort of core.
Wow, I'm just seeing this for the first time. Let's go through my really quickly.
Through your pictures, see if you've got something.
Yeah. I may have an example of me sitting in front of one of these columns really fast. Let's see.
Well, I mean, I can see the people there. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, those columns are massive.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I got an example of it. So you can see.
It's almost like they built it around an existing column, says Mike Lee.
Yeah, but I couldn't see up into the center of it. But these are huge columns.
Possibly.
And so, yeah. So there you can see the size of the column versus the people standing up there. So these would have. This was one of the royal palaces. Oh, here's this gigantic stele that I was standing underneath. So these would have originally had symbols. Would have had something written on it that told you more about the city. So, anyways, this is Monte Alban. Sorry, I get off on.
Or they said the core is modern concrete, but I don't know if they would pour modern.
It's possible. It's possible. Sometimes at these archaeological sites, there's modern reconstruction that's not obvious. So, okay, so we have the city of Monte Alban. So look, you can see where they just shaved the top of this mountain off. So it's a very, very powerful city to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, look at that. Someone be like, guys, hear me out. Why don't we just shave the top of the mountain off and live on it? And everyone's like, great idea, Chad, let's go.
So these guys were very powerful, and they lived at the center of the Oaxaca Valley. So here's these 3 different valleys. And originally you had 3 different cultures living here. And then Monte Alban, the kingdom of Monte Alban, conquered all 3 of the different cultures and made made Monte Alban basically the cultural center on the hilltop in the center of the valley. So here's what's really interesting is so the goldsmithing cultures I was talking about that have the exact same gold artifacts are going to be found anywhere from Panama to this area of Colombia, Ecuador, and then northern Peru. Now, they couldn't have been traveling by foot because we would probably see these gold artifacts around here in El Salvador, where we have some Maya cities, here in Honduras. Yeah, here in Honduras, where we have Copan, we would see it. We'd see it somewhere through Guatemala, perhaps up here in the city of Tikal, El Mirador, Calakmul. We would see some gold up here, but we don't see any at all. We don't see any in Chiapas near the city of Palenque, wherever Palenque is up here. Don't see any here. The only place we see it is in the Oaxaca Valley here in the city of Monte Alban. So what I think was happening was that somehow, some way, these guys living down here were sailing up to the southwestern coast of Mexico, and they were trading with these Zapotec, Mixtec people. And it sounds crazy that they didn't interact with these guys, as far as we can tell, But I'm about to pull up the artifacts, and it's just undeniable that they are exactly the same. It's exactly the same culture producing these. Okay, so let's see. I'll pull up Google. I really need to download Google Chrome on this PC. All right, so South American gold artifacts, and let's do Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. And here we go. They're exactly the same. We'll just scroll on through.
Oh yeah, they've got the gold toilet paper.
They've got the gold toilet paper. You can see, I mean, look at, you see the little spindles, like the little spirals. Those are all over the ones that we were just looking at. We can go and pull these. We can pull these up one more time. Everyone can see all my thumbnails. I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. So let's see.
Oh yeah, like this, the like gold spiral.
Yeah.
Bits. Got it.
Trying to find like just a good example that we can reference back to. So looking at this one more time, and there's these spirals that are on here. Yeah. See these little spirals that are on this guy?
Yep.
It's the same sort of symbol. I mean, those cultures don't just make, cultures that lived exactly at the same time, you know, on the same side of the world, don't just make these independently of each other with the same material and do it exactly the same way. So you can see this is very similar with these little bald edges with the little mosaics all pieced together. I mean, look how similar this is with the little fine bending of the gold. You can see this little nose piercing that was on that little nose piercing is on the same other gold guy. How many of these did we just look at from Tomb 7? This guy is pretty unique, but he's also made out of those little gold plates. And I even have a, let's see, we have this guy here. And I have one more. Well, we can just keep on scrolling through these because there's so many of them. I mean, these look like the necklaces that are at Tomb 7. This looks like the earrings and the necklaces that are there.
And so really it's Tomb 7 and then down here, and then all of those countries in between, there's just none of this stuff.
No, a little bit in Costa Rica and a little bit more as you get to Panama. But the thing is, the difference is, okay, so we can see this. I got so many things open. All right, so Panama, these guys are part of the El Dorado cultures. I call them El Dorado cultures. They're goldsmithing a lot. Costa Rica is doing it a little bit. But then we get into Nicaragua, not so much anymore. And then by the time we get to Honduras and El Salvador, nothing. So where's the disconnect here? Why are they not traveling through this area? They're just not. I mean, there's no evidence. I mean, there's been thousands of archaeological digs. This is one of the biggest archaeological regions in the whole world where digs have been done, because this is where the Maya are. And
hold on, just a little tech note. I think that when you move your mouse, your mic crackles, and when you don't move your mouse, your mic's fine. Try and talk, and don't use your mouse for a minute, and then we'll do a little experiment.
So
maybe it's just for me, but
well, I bet you're right. I mean, it's using up energy from the PC, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I probably need like a super PC at some point.
Yeah, you're not crackling right now, but then when you're waving the mouse, it's
so when I'm doing this, you can hear me crackling a little bit.
Yeah, it started crackling immediately. I've cracked it. Great.
Interesting. Okay, so I'll just narrate it. So in Costa Rica, when you're looking here on the map, there's a little bit of goldsmithing cultures that kind of decreases as you come out of Panama and go into Costa Rica. It's still there. But by the time you get to Nicaragua, and especially up to Honduras, El Salvador, and then Guatemala, there's absolutely no goldsmithing going on. And so it's just, and then even in Chiapas, no goldsmithing. It's not until you get to Oaxaca out here that we find goldsmithing again, or that we find artifacts from goldsmithing. And so I think that definitely the Zapotecs at Monte Alban were interacting with the goldsmithing cultures down here in northwestern South America. And these are the same cultures that the Spanish explorers were looking for the city of El Dorado, of which still really, I mean, we haven't found a city that we think that we think fits the legend of El Dorado. So, but I think that all this evidence put together is pretty obvious that these cultures were interacting with each other. And I've got one more little. So when I'm moving it right now, am I sounding okay? I don't know. If I'm,
It definitely was corresponding with when you move your mouse, you crackle a little bit.
okay. I'm gonna pull off one more thing real quick, and I'm gonna show you guys. I put these artifacts side by side for a. I put these artifacts side by side for a presentation I did while I was in Oaxaca on my recent tour. Let's see. Can anybody tell which ones are from Tomb 7 and which ones are from South America? If you had any guesses, they're they're all basically the same. It's the ones on the right so all of the ones on the center and the left are from South America, and the ones on the right are from Tomb 7. So to me, I think it's I don't know if the word rock solid is right, but I think it's just pretty obvious that it's the same.
I think you're looking for solid gold.
Looking for solid gold, yeah. So,
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I'm like super open to the idea that ancient humans worked out how to float on water. I think that we worked it out more than once, and it definitely would account for people not like mass moving, but because we don't have the we don't have like full migrational DNA of people moving from over here to over, it's not like that. But I definitely think like humans were more mobile and more seafaring.
Yeah, well, and how many
Easter Island, right? Easter Island's 3,000 kilometers from anywhere, and I haven't like fully deep dived into Easter Island, but there is they've looked at like the DNA of chickens on Easter Island, and they are like the same chickens that were over like ancient chickens. So somebody was moving in chickens and birds over the sea to the island, and that's 3,000 kilometers. That's probably about the same as what we're talking about here. So
probably so.
Yeah, and also you'll keep it, and that's going like right out into the middle of the Pacific. Imagine if you get the coordinates wrong on that, because then you're dead because you're out of water. But
I know, right?
But if you're following like a shoreline, you run out of water, you're like, well, we're just going to have to make a stop in Panama.
I've heard before. I've heard it theorized before that these sea voyagers in the Pacific had captured and trained birds to fly across the ocean to find land. And when the birds where they would descend over the horizon and where they would ascend and come from, the birds would lead the people to land. Because they can just land like in calm water. They can just land somewhere and take a rest on the top of the water if they don't get eaten by a shark, and then they'll eventually find land. And that's also another thing that's crazy, is the Pacific Islanders that left the islands of Indonesia, Polynesia, and they just took off into the Pacific Ocean. I mean, first off, that's crazy. I could never do that. But they think that that something was happening in the islands of Indonesia, Polynesia, that was causing people to want to get out, and they were seeing birds fly out into the ocean. So they just set off on their boats and started following the birds, and eventually they found little islands and settled them, and eventually they ended up on Easter Island and then into South America. I mean, the capability of people is amazing. Have you ever heard of the story of Kon-Tiki before?
No.
It's something we'll have to dive into on another day, but it was an archaeologist named Thor Heyerdahl that recreated. He did it first with Middle Eastern, like Mediterranean river rafts, and then he did another one made out of South American Easter Islandish rafts, and he was able to sail all the way across the Pacific Ocean on those. And it took him something like 111 days to do it, but he proved that it could be done. And so, I mean, I'm right there with you and with everyone else in the comments that people were traveling across the entire world. I would say probably much earlier in time than they're given credit for.
Yeah. Just and also boats are one thing, especially if they're made of wood. We're not going to find boats that are older than like 5,000 years old because they just they won't keep. So they're either at the bottom of the ocean or they've completely disintegrated on boats that are 10,000, 15,000 years old. Right. Okay, we are like edging. We are so edging closer and closer to my birthday. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. How much longer now?
It's 10:30 here in England, so
Okay. Got about an hour
I'm
and a
an
half.
hour and a half from my birthday.
Cool. Well, we're rolling towards the end. We're gonna take a look at some of the soups and respond to some comments. Happy birthday! Thank you so much, Ohms, for the big 5.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that. And
Birthday dollars.
Gabriel Fellbaum, just to give you a coffee tip. Glad catching you live for once. Well, thank you very much, and we're glad that you're here as well. And Jose Ataco, member for 3 months. Any chance to watch your Cosmic Summit video on YouTube? Do you happen to know? Are we going to be posting those on our YouTube, or are they doing something?
Yes, we can. So George has given the videos, and like he sent a link this week. But he said if we could just post like not all the video, because you can watch it at the moment on like a pay-per-view. So he said for 1 more month they're going to be open for pay-per-view, and then that will be then free. So at the minute we can put up like parts of it. I might put up like a top 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, and I might do what Ben does, where he basically just goes through his presentation with his own audience. So I may do a live or something where
that's good.
Everybody can pop in, and I'll do my whole presentation again on my live, or I'll record it separately and upload it as a video. So nice. I'll just have to think about what exactly I'm going to do.
Cool.
Happy B-Day from Bunka Down Under. So I'm guessing you're from Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lord J. I'll let you read this one. Sorry.
Happy birthday to both y'alls. Luke, is there a suggested reading list for the Egypt trip? So he's be joining your Egypt trip.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who's watching, I am doing an Egypt trip called Secrets of the Sands. I think that's going to be the name of the annual tour-ish that we do. So it's called Secrets of the Sands, A Lost History of Ancient Egypt. And so it sounds like Lord J is going to be joining me. And so is there a suggested reading trip or reading list for the Egypt trip? Yes, that's something I should probably think about and post like on my Twitter or something for people who are coming, or when I we'll put everybody in like a WhatsApp group message as well. But definitely The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Timothy something. You could look that up. It's a new book. That's like your standard, reading. You get to learn about the history of Egypt. There's not so much there about the pyramid builders because, that's whether or not, I think this is something people don't realize, is like whether or not the pyramids were built in 2600 BC, that's still deep remote time that we don't even know anything about. So there's not a whole lot there, but we're going to see a lot more of ancient Egypt as well. So that's a good like standard reading so that you know what the standard story is. I think it's Secrets of the Great Pyramid or Mysteries of the Great Pyramid. Actually, I think I got a copy of it. Give me a second.
I like that a comment here says, sounds dusty. Secrets of the Sand. And Egypt is hella dusty. So bring shoes that you don't mind destroying with dust.
This here is like a must. This is almost definitely one of the books that Graham Hancock was reading when he wrote Fingerprints of the Gods. This is like the OG book on the Great Pyramid. Secrets of the Great Pyramid by Peter Tompkins is a must read. Let me see if I have any.
Luke's just showing off his library now.
Yeah. I think a bunch of my Egypt books are in a different room right now. But I'm trying to think. Gosh, I have so many. There's one that's like The Complete Mysteries of the Great Pyramids. That's a newer book. Gosh, there's so many. Shoot me an email and I'll send you something, Lord J. My email is for everybody listening. If you want to get in contact with me, it's just lukecaverns@gmail.com. Shoot me an email and I'll write out a list. I can't think of things right off the top of my head, but thank you so much for the donation and very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks guys. They'll appreciate it.
Well, so Johanna, what are you getting up to in the near future?
In the near future, well, it's my birthday tomorrow. And what am I doing? Oh, well, I'm preparing to go to Easter Island because at the end, oh my gosh, I'm like 4 weeks away from going to Easter Island for the first time in my whole life. I'm not looking forward to the flight because it's 20 hours of flying either way. But I'm very excited to look at a moai, like a proper one. I've seen a moai in the British Museum, but it's not the same. It's, I want to see them in situ. I want to see all of the ornate stuff. Really excited. Everyone I've spoken to that's gone to Easter Island said that it's like paradise. It's like a paradise island.
That's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see your videos.
I'm so excited. Cool. And we also have, will you guys have Raider merch is a question just come in. We're chatting about it. We had to work. It took us a long time to work out the logo, guys. So let's give us some time.
We almost went through like a hard rebrand where we were going to keep the same name, but it was going to be like totally different aesthetic. And I was like, but I like the red on yellow. I like the Indiana Jones feel to it. We just had to figure out the right way to do it. So we think this looks nice and neat. We are working on merch. It won't be too much longer. We just have to, whatever we do, it's not going to be, I'll say is when you receive the shirt, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is very nice. Like the quality of it is going to feel nice. It's going to be a very nice product and you're going to like wearing it. That's all.
Yeah. Cause you like crappy merch. You want to get like quality merch. And, I like stuff that, well, personally, I like either stuff that's like an in joke or, like a kind of in the club nod, and stuff that you would kind of wear regardless of, I don't know. It won't just be mine and Luke's faces or names. It's going to be something fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a shirt that you would see, merch, but really, we're talking about shirts or whatever. But it's gonna be something that you would like to wear, even if it had nothing to do with Johanna and I. And it's gonna be something, I'm not gonna like. I've never had the intention of being somebody. If I was gonna sell merch, that I'd sell some like crappy, cheap shirt that I didn't even want to wear. It's gonna be something that I'm gonna wear.
Yeah, so that's why we're taking a little time. We're going to properly design it and be like, this has got to be really cool. And it's going to be members if you want to be like, members of the Raider, the podcast.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Raider, this is the uniform. It's the Raiders uniform.
I was thinking about that because I know on your channel, your audience is hunters. I think Raiders is a good.
Raiders is good, yeah. So, because I'm an ancient history hunter and I hunt ancient technology, that's like my passion. So, hunters is definitely what we are. And I have a band, like a fake band, called the Copper Chisels, and anyone can join the band. And it's like if you know, if you get the joke, you get the joke. If not, you can get a really cool rock band T-shirt for the Copper Chisels. So, something along those lines. This has been fun. Okay, I've learned a lot about tombs, gold, potential pathways. I want to get myself some like El Dorado inspired earrings, and I want to watch the El Dorado movie because now I've been reminded of it, and I'm going to go back and regress to my childhood. And
maybe I'm going to South America in 6 weeks. So maybe I'll be able to find you something El Dorado-y and send you something.
We're going to be like kind of swapping paths. So in 4 weeks, I'm going to Easter Island.
I know.
We'll be kind of like very near each other.
But wish I could go on it. But, guys, one day we'll be doing some Raiders tours as well. So,
one day in the far distant future, if it takes us like 6 months to work out a T-shirt. But, someone's just put in $5 for a Luke helmet.
Luke helmet. Oh, wow. A Luke helmet. Well, we could certainly come up with something like that. I had thought about so Wested Leather, which is down the road from Johanna. They make my jackets. They send me a jacket every year. This is actually my new one. People can probably tell that this one's a little bit different. This one's a much darker than the one I've normally
wear.
This is actually like the screen accurate one. So when it weathers, the brown will come out of it.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's cool. So, Wested makes my jackets. Maybe I can hit up somebody and we can make some fedoras. I don't know. We'll see. But
See,
anyways,
get the whole look. And
yeah,
we just
yeah,
need some satchels and whips, and we're off.
yeah, exactly. So, well, hey, Johanna, it was great speaking with you again.
Yes, and
Thank-
happy birthday for
And happy
the
birthday
day
to
after.
you.
We're
Yep.
both. If anyone didn't know, we are twins separated at birth. One grew
Twins.
up in Texas, and one grew up in London.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, well, hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been a great episode 5 of Raiders of the Past podcast. Love hanging out with you, Raiders. I think that's what we'll call you guys, is Raiders from now on.
Raiders, yeah, we
that's
are
a good-
all are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, that concludes episode 5. Thank you guys all so much for showing up. And we're getting closer and closer to having like a defined schedule. So we'll put out the date and time for the next episode sometime soon.
Be Monday, a Monday soon.
Yeah,
Over and out from London.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, I'm over and out from San Antonio, Texas. We'll see all of you Raiders again soon. And in the future, this will be the point where I put in our outro song and outro video of some kind. But for now, you just have to hear me talk until the stream ends.